Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Emazing Tennis Podcast. Today, we have with us Vania King. She's a former professional tennis player that reached career high rankings of number 3 in the world in doubles and 50 in the world in singles. She's a two-time Grand Slam doubles champion, winning Wimbledon and the US Open. She represented players on tour as a WTA Player Council representative and is currently a consultant for the Women's Tennis Association and Women's Tennis Benefits Association. She is doing, honestly, so many things that I could just go on right now and just list it, but I will let her talk about the things that she wants to talk about more. The main thing that she's doing right now, she's a founder and an executive director of a nonprofit organization serving up hope that provides tennis and education programming for underprivileged children. So I'm really excited to talk to Vania today a little bit about her history, how she juggles everything, how she balances everything, how she's doing everything that she's doing. And maybe we can learn some tips and tricks how she does it all. So without further ado, Vania, welcome.
Thank you.
Did you like that intro?
I did. It was very impressive, the bio there. So when you ask, tips and tricks, it sounded very overwhelming, and that's sometimes how I feel with all the things that I'm doing.
Yeah, I feel like every time we talk, it's like either you or we are like, we're always overwhelmed. There's always so much, right? Or you're traveling a lot, right? So like where did you just come back from?
I just came back from Brazil. So I was part of a State Department sports diplomacy program where former and current professional athletes are called sports envoys, and they go to different consulates and embassies around the world and use sport as a diplomatic tool to connect with communities.
Nice. How was that? How was the experience?
It was awesome. It was my first time. It was my first time in the program, so I didn't really know what to expect. So since it was the first time, it was the best time I could have ever had. It was a lot of fun. So we were in Porto Alegre. It was myself and Nico Pereira. He's a former tennis player as well, and now a longtime broadcaster. He represented Venezuela when he was playing, but he's lived in the States for over 20 years now. So he and I met at the Tennis Channel, one of the other things that I was doing, which is broadcasting. I never worked with him because we were both on the analyst side, but we got together, after work, like with the team, and had wine, and we got to know each other. And he's a great guy. So I was really glad to get to go with him.
Nice. No, it seems like, we connected recently. How did we even connect? Maybe like it was just a few months ago, right?
I feel like we've been friends for a long time.
Yes.
We got connected through Instagram because so talking about serving up hope, I do a lot of different things, including, I partly run the social media side of it. And so I saw that you had followed us, and then I followed you, and then saw your page and all the amazing drills and information that you share on your page. And I actually reached out to you to see if we could meet up, because I felt like we were aligned in what we're trying to achieve, and maybe get you involved with serving up hope.
Yeah, no, I was really glad when you reached out, and I feel like there's a lot of things that we can, we can do together. Oh, yesterday, okay, when we were doing the Zoom call with one of the other companies we're trying to get connected with, he asked you a good question, but you didn't really answer. And I want to ask you the same thing, because you started talking and then you kind of like went off.
We talked about, I have ADHD, so I lose my train of thought.
So just specifically, I want you to answer me.
Okay.
How did it feel when you won Wimbledon? Do you remember that day?
Oh yeah, yes, I do. In the moment, I was in disbelief. So I do recall screaming, and I couldn't stop screaming, "Oh my God, we just won Wimbledon. Oh my God, we just won Wimbledon." And it was like a broken record, because I couldn't stop screaming that, and I couldn't stop saying it either. So for about 20 minutes, and my partner had to be like, "Okay, Vania, I heard you, the first 1,000 times that you said that, but I just like kept going. I finally, I think after 20 minutes, stopped screaming. So that was good for your ears.
Okay,
Yeah.
and because you talked about leading into it, like all the hard work, how you were not really highly ranked then, you guys, nobody expected that you will win it. So you talked about all of this, but you actually didn't talk about like that feeling, you
Yeah.
were in disbelief. Like, was it like, okay, all of my hard work, everything that I dreamed of, it happened, or it was like more just disbelief, or
In the moment, it did not feel that way, frankly. I look back and in a way, sadly, I felt like not that we didn't deserve it, but I didn't prioritize doubles. I was good at it. I had a coach that I talked about yesterday. I had a coach that really developed an all-court game for me. And I think that I wanted to, it's normal for us to, put work in, have a goal in mind, and then achieve it and think, okay, that's the pinnacle of it. But I now look back and no career is like that, right? Like nothing happens the way that you think it's going to happen. So in the moment, well, one, we were in so much shock that I wasn't thinking at all, but I was not also feeling like, okay, I put in the work and then it happened exactly the way that I had planned it. However, I now look back and see, okay, I did put in the work. There were the pieces that came together, but it just came in a way that I didn't expect. And at the time I didn't expect it.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. It's interesting to hear. But what I really want to focus on a lot is, that transition after playing professionally. And I just want you to be, honest, because I feel like that transition is always so tough. Okay, first of all, did you go to college or no?
I did not physically go to college. So when I was 17, I committed to Stanford. But then that gap year, or that, the year in between, I was supposed to go the following fall, I ended up getting to top 100. I remember at Wimbledon calling my parents and saying, okay, I made my decision, because Wimbledon was my cutoff. And also I was going to go to school in the fall, and Wimbledon's in June. And I said, okay, I made my decision. I'm going to school. And they said, nope, you're not going. Like you're turning pro. And again, looking back, at the time I was upset because I was burned out of tennis. I had kind of a difficult road coming up as a junior. I'm very glad that it happened that way. I didn't physically go, but then when I was 19, I decided to start studying online while I was playing. So I finished an undergraduate at the University of Massachusetts, Lowell, in psychology. And then after that, I did a master's in nonprofit management at Northeastern.
Was it hard, like at the same time playing and juggling that, or it was manageable because it was online?
It was manageable for sure. It's just more about time management, which being an athlete you have to have, and prioritizing, which is, as an athlete, you also have to have. For example, I prioritize singles over doubles. So I prioritize tennis over my school. So I had some windows where I would do my work, and then if tennis if my obligations through tennis became too much, then I knew I had to focus on that first, and then whatever happened with my studies would go after that. But I found a good rhythm. So I was taking on average 3 classes a semester. 2 was a little too little, and then 3 was a little too much. But I'm a person that would rather be more busy than less busy. And actually with tennis, there's a lot of downtime. I mean, you remember.
Yeah.
You're focused so much on optimizing your performance, and that means resting a lot, not even reading a book because it could make your eyes tired, or walking to the mall with your friends to get dinner, like that's because it could make you tired. So there's a lot of downtime where just kind of waiting around and trying to let your brain and your body rest. And I got to the point where I needed to be a little bit stimulated, at least.
Yeah. No, but it's good. I'm very similar to that. I feel like my day has to be filled, right? Like if I have a little gap, okay, what can I put in this hour?
Being an athlete, or specifically being a tennis player, because it's an individual sport, we're very goal oriented, which I think is, I don't think there's any trait that's good or bad. There's positives and negatives to every trait, but on one hand, we're very goal oriented and usually perfectionists. So we're we go 100% to finish that goal. But at the same time, going 100% may not be healthy mentally or physically, right? So it's something I think we'll just always juggle as our personality type.
How come you decided to retire?
So I officially retired April 2021, last year. It feels like a lot longer. What really led me to retirement is I didn't recover from a surgery that I had. Actually, the only injury-induced surgery I had was in 2017. I had ankle surgery, and what was supposed to be a 30-minute routine arthroscopy turned out to be 2 hours. I mean, the surgery didn't get that much more complicated, but I had a lot of issues recovering from it, which I never recovered from it. So I lost, I would say, 40% of my mobility on that ankle. Being an athlete, I mean, having any sort of decrease in functioning is very impactful. So, and I basically I didn't understand my body, so I had to relearn movements because I didn't have the mobility. So for example, I didn't have the mobility where dorsiflexion, where your foot pulls up, which also means when you sink down into, when you bend your knee and try to sink down, which is very important in tennis. So I wasn't able to get down low on the backhand side. And then I would start compensating with my back. So then I started having more back issues. So, and then I didn't have a lot of strength, like the strength that I used to have on that side. So I realized it took a while because it was very hard. I know you want to talk about transition, but it's a very emotional thing, letting go of your career, because in tennis, we start so early, in a way, a pretty dysfunctional lifestyle. You have to be an adult when you're a child. Even whether you like it or not, your self-identity is intertwined with the sport. Everything that I am was developed by tennis. Even the way my body looks is because of tennis. So it's really hard to think about detaching from that. So I think there was two aspects. One was mourning the loss of my career, and then the other part was trying to figure out what to do next.
It's tough, and I feel like, and you will see, I stopped 5-6 years ago. You get to the moments where it's like a part of you still wants to be there, still wants to compete. And then I try not to watch TV so much and not to watch tennis so much, because I'm like, I want to be there. But then it's like, okay, I actually don't, and I can't. My body can handle it. It's part of your identity. It's part of who you are, especially you, people will always call you Vania King, 2-time Grand Slam champion. You wanted that or not, you will be introduced like that. But you also, after you finish and after you're done with that, and you're starting a new chapter in your life, right? Okay, who really Vania is outside of the tennis court, outside of the winning and losing. And it takes time to find yourself, but it seems like you, on paper at least, you bounce back and you started doing a million things, I feel like. So, okay, when you just finished, what did you start doing exactly, right away? And then how did you start with serving up hope?
I was actually supposed to retire early 2020. Actually, after Indian Wells, Miami, and Charleston, I had decided, because I grew up in Southern California, so Indian Wells was kind of my home tournament. I then moved to Florida when I was 19 to train. So I've been here the last 14, 15 years. So then I thought, okay, Miami's also, close to my heart. And then Charleston, I just love. And then COVID hit. So I actually pushed it back by a year, which it gave me an opportunity to explore other things. It definitely did, but at the same time, it was during COVID. So it was also everyone kind of had to stay put. And because I hadn't officially retired, there's also that I think, emotional limbo, but also professional limbo. So if other people don't know that you're officially retired, then they may not connect with you with opportunities because they don't think that you're retired yet. So there's both internal and external limbo of not having that official end date. Because I didn't know what to do when COVID hit. Nobody knew what to do, right? And it was tough tough for so many people, and definitely tougher for others than it was for me. Prior to my ankles, and then, I was dealing with my injury since 2017. In 2015, I also didn't play most of the year because I had a neck injury. So the last 5-6 years of my career, I was mostly injured. And I had tried my best as much as I could to explore different things. So the first time I got injured in 2015, I actually was a substitute teacher for a couple of months. Yeah, because I thought that I wanted to go into, I thought the education field sounded interesting. Psychology was what I did my undergrad in. I was very interested in going into that space professionally, and being a school psychologist was something I thought I might explore, but because I needed to go into an official program. Anyways, I thought, okay, being a substitute teacher, I at least get exposed to the education system. Oh yeah, that was a very inspirational path to making me realize tennis was actually not so bad. So like, okay, I got better really fast, or really motivated to get better fast. I was working in urban charter schools, and being a substitute teacher is just like babysitting. You can't develop a relationship with the kids, so it was quite hard. And I had always interested in the philanthropic space, so even while playing, whenever I got a chance, I would try to do the kids clinics or go to the hospital visits. Like working with kids is something that I'm also very passionate about, and giving back is very fulfilling to me. I recognize that. So in a way, it's selfish because I feel good about it. But I try my best to make sure that it's authentic. I was kind of in my tennis career going downhill, and then my kind of outside career going up in terms of trying to figure out what else I wanted to do. Was ready to start something on my own. I had volunteered for a few different other organizations. I had some board positions, and I got connected. So Serving of Hope's first program was launched in Uganda, and during COVID, if I wanted to make it harder on myself. And so I did a pilot program in 2019. I was still officially playing, and I connected with a legal aid NGO. That's why I got connected to Uganda. I was connected to this legal aid NGO called Barefoot Law, and we did a 3-4 day camp for tennis and legal education. Over 300 kids participated, with 5 to 6 schools represented, on the size of one court. So 300 kids on the size of one court. Half were doing legal education, and then half were doing tennis. And so those few days made me feel, I don't know why I felt so confident, but I felt confident enough, okay, like that I could make an impact, that I could do something there and it would be meaningful. So the reason why I got connected to Uganda and Africa in general is originally through wildlife. And you had asked me before about my love for bird watching, which Uganda has a lot of birds.
That's why. Okay.
So I started traveling through sub-Saharan Africa because of my love of wildlife. And then I ended up getting connected to this legal aid NGO.
I was reading earlier your bio, and it says hobbies, bird watching and singing. Any other hobbies besides those two, or that's it?
Oh yeah, I mean, I like well, I don't do it much anymore, but I love playing video games.
Which ones?
RPGs. So
I don't know. I don't know any video games. Nope.
So now I just play on my phone, but I used to play a lot of RPGs, are role-playing games. So you have a character, and then you go through a storyline, and there's magic and
fun time.
It's not your thing, I know.
No, it's not. No.
Yeah.
But
I like being outside. I love being outside. So hiking, biking, trekking. I like that. I like stuff outside.
How are the workouts going for you? Are you working out or not so much?
I have been biking, but with my new electric bike, and I seem to be putting the setting up higher each time to make it easier on me.
Oh.
So I'm not sure how much of a workout I'm getting.
Do you feel like, though, as like a ex-professional athlete, like, do you feel like your body craves that?
Yes and no, not at the level I was doing before, because that was an unhealthy level of load on my body, and my injuries have proven that. But I think my body does need more exercise, and I'm not giving it that because I get stiffness in places because of inactivity now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and I also, when I go out and I'm exercising and I get the endorphins, I just feel really great.
You need to know the benefits of it, and you need to make yourself a priority. That's what I talk about a lot. You need to, as you put on your to-do list, as you put on your calendar, a meeting at 1, this, okay, you take that 1 to 2, or I don't know what time for you. That might be, I don't know, um,
I
something in
I
the
do not do a good job of balancing. And also it's something, after tennis, I had this routine that I was doing for 20 years. And so it was very not challenging, but it was all new to try to create routines after tennis. What was my life going to look like? And and it felt really odd. I'm 33 and I was in this transition phase, which I feel like most people go through after college. So you finish college and then you're like, what am I going to do now? And then after you maybe have kids, and then potentially in between, if you're, in between jobs. So it just felt really odd that I felt like a lot of the things I was, let's say, 10 years late, and then a lot of things I had a lot more experience, even for those that are my age.
How do you, in life, we're all trying to find some balance, right? Everybody is. How do you find your balance? But I guess you just said that you don't. You don't.
I'm doing better. When I started, the few things that I'm doing, so serving a Pope takes up a lot of time, and as I am the executive director, but because we're small, we actually don't have any staff. So, and I'm not paid. So basically I do everything, which is from bookkeeping to picking up donations to managing social media, or now I partly do that, to creating the kits for our programs, doing partner outreach, follow-ups, like everything you can think of, I manage it. That in itself is, 10, 15 jobs. Then I work as a consultant for WTA, and then I'm also on the board of USTA. I also co-founded another nonprofit called the Asian American Pacific Islander Tennis Association. So trying to represent the Asian American community in the tennis industry. I'm on the SoCal Tennis Association DEI committee. So I have a problem saying no.
Keep going.
Point being, in the beginning, I would take meetings anytime someone wanted to get a hold of me, I said yes. And then I learned, okay, I can't do this, because there was a time where I worked for 6 weeks in a row, like every single day for 6 weeks, and then I got sick. And then what was most frustrating was that I got sick and then I wasn't able to work. So I'm like, okay, this is inefficient, because if I take off, a week to get better, then I'm wasting 7 days, but I could have taken off, a day a week.
Yes.
So I started I love what I do, which I'm lucky, because I love everything that I'm doing. But yes, I do need to listen to my body, listen to my brain. I need to have time for myself, which I haven't found the balance fully, but I don't work on the weekends, or I don't accept meetings on the weekends anymore.
Okay.
But for example, I'm trying to now add time for admin work, as you know, like I take meetings all week, but then all the follow-ups and the admin and the tasks, my to-do list, I don't cross those off because I'm taking meetings all week. And then I found that I start doing all of that work on the weekend, which defeats the purpose. So I'm still working on the weekend. So I'm getting there, Emma, but I do add things.
We're all trying to do that, and also to say no, and to figure out, the priorities, also to delegate some tasks. I think at the end of the day, if you have a goal, if you have a vision, and you know what you're working towards, I mean, it's good that you have the drive, and that you love what you do, but it can be good and bad, because then it takes over your life.
Because we want it to be daily habits, it's
Yeah.
hard to change all of your habits at once.
Little by little. Yeah, easier said than done. Or add more to your plate. So what's your main priority now?
Overall, I love everything that I'm doing because I am still engaged in the tennis industry, where I feel like I can give back the most because that's, where my life has been. But it's not on court. And so it's ways that I feel like I can be of value, but it's not the traditional on court coaching. Although I do coach a little bit on the side sometimes just for fun, with WTA, all of them I feel are ways that are meaningful to me because it stays in the tennis industry and I can give back. So even with WTA, a lot of the work I do is about how can I support players with education or awareness of current programs, talk to them about maybe some of the concerns they might have in different areas. So assisting players, which is obviously very close to my heart because I was a player for most of my life, and how can we make their lives better off court? Because on court is, it's not something I can touch. Everyone has their own path to the team, but off court, I feel a lot of space where I can be of benefit because I was a player and I understand what players feel. With the USTA being on the board, I feel that's very high level. So it's guiding kind of the direction of American tennis and priorities for the USTA. And, for example, with the Asian American Tennis Association, then I can support, again, the Asian American Pacific Islander community. That's also something I care about. So yeah, all of the different roles that I have, I feel fit well because they're all part of the tennis industry, but different touch points of it. So I've got serving Pope, which is grassroots at the very bottom. USTA and WTA is kind of the high level, although WTA also is in a way grassroots because it's you work with players that are training every day. Asian American Pacific Islander Tennis Association, I can help this community. So I feel like I've got a nice balance of roles. I'm also a PTRW ambassador. So PTR has a women's, I can't say it's a program because it's beyond that, but they have an initiative, I would say, to try to get more women in coaching, and female empowerment is very important. I know it's important to us, and I know it's very important to you as well, because representation for women is very poor in sport and in tennis. So yeah, that's quite important to me. One of the projects I'm working on with WTA is a coaching program to try to get more women coaching at the WTA level, so at the very highest level. So all of these things are meaningful to me.
Yeah. Do you ever face any challenges as a female in the industry?
Yes, I do. Funnily enough, being female, I feel like where I get the most discrimination is actually in Uganda. Oh yeah, because it's a very patriarchal society, and yeah, their gender roles are much more rigid than ours. I mean, I definitely don't know everything. I don't know much about most things, but tennis development is a space that I'm very confident in, and it has been challenging to work there with with the patriarchal institution and just how things work. I remember, so we've this year we purchased land to build our own tennis courts. There's only about 20 courts in the whole country, and all of them are privately owned and completely unaffordable for the kids that we work with. The families, no running water, no electricity. They make less than $2 a day, and to rent a court is $15 an hour. So just not affordable at all. And most of the families are about 8 in size. And I remember when I was going through this land purchase process, we were trying to sign a contract, and there was 6 men around me at this table, and they were discussing heatedly, yelling at each other, and as if I wasn't there. And I'm like, guys, I'm the one purchasing the land. Like you're discussing and negotiating with somebody that's not purchasing the land, and it was just because I was a woman, and they didn't even acknowledge me. And I'm like, oh, I mean, because I'm American, coming from a culture that does there's a long way to go, but it does respect women more than they do in Uganda. Hopefully there's no Ugandans that argue with me or upset at me if I say that. But but it has been challenging there. In the States, or just in general, I would say yes, because I was successful, or because I was successful enough. I wasn't the most successful, of course, but because I was successful enough that I got to play on tour. Not many people had that on their resume. So I think in a way it does mitigate some of the issues you might face being female in this industry. However, I recognize at many levels that a woman, so I would have to, in many ways, I'm respected because I'm better, like let's say more successful than a guy. And so a guy would respect me because I'm better than they are. But now I'm respected at the same level, which shouldn't make sense because you should be respected if you're at the same level. But I have to be above them to be respected at the same level, if that makes sense. I definitely see if, let's say, there was a former professional male player versus myself, they on average would get more, attention or support. There is, like, let's say if we were at the same level, then I would be below them. And I mean, I don't envy, like, I think coaching is an incredibly meaningful profession. I mean, my coaches have changed my life, and they're still, to this day, people that I stay connected with. But I think the coaching space, and that's why, trying to get more women in coaching is something that I'm passionate about. But it's hard being a coach. I would say harder being a coach, a female coach, than being a female player, because then you are now fully in an institution that is not quite merit-based, right? Like, at least when you're playing against women, you win and your ranking goes up. But in the industry as coaches, it's much more difficult because you are being hired by men. The boards are men. They're typically having kind of a nepotistic or closed opportunities. So I'd say, like, outside of that, which I have not engaged in, I would say I think it's worse.
It's interesting also to hear from your side, because it's all true. What do you have any advice for the females, like, entering the industry?
Yes. So, I mean, I would say, well, from, again, what little I know, I've only transitioned out of my career recently, but I would say for anyone that is, let's say, not fulfilled or wants to change, or even just wants to see more wants more growth and whatever, for whatever reason, to try lots of things. It can only, having more skills only adds to your value. Also, you can network, you connect with people, you never know who will impact you where. I would say all of the roles, I mean, even playing tennis was a little bit serendipitous. We never know where our life is going to go. So try lots of things. And so then you're able to see what clicks with you. You can cross some things off. You can say, oh, well, I like this, but I didn't like that part. So maybe I'll stay in that area, but try a little bit different, something else. Second, I'd say is speak up. Because I have learned, working now in organizations, that a lot of times men, they're not more qualified, but I think women have a tendency to want to be qualified before they go into something, where a guy's like, I don't care, like I'm gonna just wing it, I don't care that I'm not qualified, but I'm gonna fake it till I make it. And I genuinely have seen that, like, there's no difference in quality between a male and a female, but the guy is willing, and he's courageous enough to go in and say, I don't care, I'm going to still go for it. Where a woman may say, oh, I don't know, I'm not qualified for that job. It says that it's got, this criteria, and I don't really have fully that. I would suggest, just go for it and speak up, and be transparent. Don't lie about what your qualifications are, but it's also okay to say, I don't know, but I'm willing to learn. I don't know, like, here's where I have value, here's where I can get better, as opposed to, oh, I can't do that, and I think it's part of it is the industry needs to get better to support women, but also on an individual level, encouraging us as individuals to speak up for what we want. And if we fail, again, it's another thing we can cross off. We tried it. I just see a lot of times there's no difference in qualifications, but there might be a guy who doesn't care that he's not qualified, but will still go for it.
That's such a good point. I spoke to somebody the other day and we talked about something similar, but speaking up, like you said, speaking up, getting out of your comfort zone, that's the only way. And we have to be confident. We really have to be confident. That's why I'm doing all this social media. I'm not 100% confident. Maybe I come off when you see my posts and when you do this, but no, at this point, I'm just winging it, like you said, like I have to, or I'm just going to sit there and wait for a miracle to happen.
Yeah. Well, I thought of two other things as well. Okay, I'll go quickly through them. So try things, speak up, have allies, whether it's male or female, those that support you, that want to see women empowered and you empowered. So surround yourself by people that support you. And then if you are in a leadership role, and it's tough because there is discrimination. We know it exists, and it will be tougher for you being a minority, but it is important for women to be in leadership roles. So one, to aspire and get there and then stay there, even if it's tough. I mean, obviously, if it's miserable and it's really not aligned with what you're trying to achieve, okay, at it. But there is a lot of value in little girls and little boys seeing women in leadership roles, right? And that's not what we normally have seen when we were growing up. We don't see that a lot. We didn't see that a lot. So the more that it can be normal, the more that overall society's perception will change.
I like that a lot. Can you tell us the website for the Serving Up Hope so people can visit? And is there a way to support the foundation?
So for those that are interested in learning more about Serving Up Hope, our website is servinguphope.org. Our social media handles, we're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. So it's Serving Up Hope.org, which is Instagram. On Facebook, it's Serving Up Hope. And then on Twitter, it's Serve Up Hope.org. But if you just look it up and you'll see, so our logo, it's a tennis ball with a heart on it. And I'm pretty sure you won't be able to miss it because it'll say, founded by Vania King. And then for those that are interested in supporting, we accept donations of gently used equipment, including tennis rackets, tennis shoes. I mean, specifically for kids, that's been more difficult for us to get. So kids rackets, kids shoes. We've got programs all over the States now. So we've actually launched 9 programs in the States, in the Seattle, LA, and Chicago areas. And in spring of next year, we're launching in South Florida and San Francisco. If you would like to donate, we would be very grateful for any donations that you might want to give. Any amount is helpful. If you take a look at our website and if you go to the donate button, you'll see a list of items that what quantifies. So, for example, $100 equals this. So $30, for example, equals a month of tuition for a child. So a little goes a long way, and very appreciative of anything that whomever would like to give.
I'm so happy we talked and you were on my podcast. Thank you so much. This was a great conversation. We'll have to do another one in like a few episodes.
Yeah. We didn't talk about your career and maybe like even more about the transition space and connecting to what you're doing.
Yeah. No, definitely. There was so much good information here. And I appreciate you one more time. And I wish you all the best. And I'm looking forward to connecting more with you.
Perfect. Thank you, Emma.
Thanks, Anja.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and a review. To catch all the latest from me, you can follow me on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok at Tennis with Emma. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.